Welcome to the Endo Belly Girl podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa Chavez. I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner and restorative wellness practitioner on a mission to change the way that we support women with endometriosis. Endo is a full-body disease that impacts your mind, body, and spirit in countless ways that aren't often addressed the way that women truly deserve. We are here to talk about all of it. Please keep in mind that the content of this show has been created for educational purposes only and should never be used as a replacement for medical diagnosis or treatment. All right, hello and welcome back to the Endo Belly Girl podcast. I have been receiving a lot of questions lately about PMS, also known as premenstrual syndrome, what causes it, and most importantly, what to do about it. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I actually used to have really bad PMS myself. I would feel depressed and or anxious, sometimes all of the above, bloated. I would get breast tenderness, really tender. I'm talking like you couldn't give me a hug in those days leading up to my period. I also used to have some crazy spotting about 5 to 7 days before my period started that just went right along with those PMS symptoms. And now, and this is 100% through holistic means, primarily diet and lifestyle, as well as some of the other stuff I'm going to talk about today, I now have 0 PMS symptoms. So it is very much possible to get out of that cycle. And it's something, I've seen this change in myself. I've seen this change in many of my clients as well. In fact, I just had a conversation this week with a one-on-one client about how much her PMS symptoms have improved from where she started when she started working with me, which is always so awesome to see. So today I'm going to share with you what actually works to support PMS. But first, let's go through some myths versus truths when it comes to PMS. So myth number 1, PMS isn't real or it's all in your head. Have you heard this one before? Have you been told this before in a doctor's office or by a family member or friend? The truth is it's not all in your head. This is a real, legitimate thing that happens. So if you leave with nothing today other than just feeling validated that what you're experiencing is real, awesome. I hope that you leave with more than that because that's more. I have a bigger intention with this episode, but I did want to throw that little nugget in there because I feel like that's something I hear all the time, that women are just told that, oh, PMS isn't real. It's just something that goes on in your head. And that's super frustrating when you're in the middle of it experiencing symptoms. So I just wanted to remind you that it's real. This is an actual thing. You're not crazy. And I hope that helps you on your journey. Myth number 2, PMS is normal and everyone has it. The truth is that PMS is a sign that there is some imbalance in your body and it warrants further investigation. Remember, common does not equal normal. Those two things do not equate. Yes, a lot of people have PMS. That is true. A lot of people also have period pain, and a lot of people also have spotting before their periods. Those are all symptoms that are common, but does not mean it's a normal symptom, meaning in a truly healthy body, those things shouldn't be going on. And so there are things that you can do to help to support that and bring your body back into balance, which is what we're talking about today. Myth number 3, mood swings in PMS can be blamed entirely on hormones. The truth, hormones are a piece of the puzzle, but remember that hormone imbalance is a symptom, not a root cause. It's actually just a sign that we need to be digging deeper. So let's dig in. Since we have deeper to dig, let's do that. Let's make that happen. All right. So first of all, what is PMS? Premenstrual syndrome. Typical symptoms of PMS include mood swings, depression, anxiety, irritability, fatigue, trouble sleeping, bloating, cramping, breast tenderness, headaches, and cravings. Of course, like many things, it may not be an exhaustive list, but those are really the typical symptoms that come with PMS, and those will start to occur typically anywhere between 3 to maybe 7 days before your period begins, and often will continue during the first few days of your period as well for some people. Sometimes for some people, they lift as soon as your period begins. For some people, they may continue a little bit into your period as well. But that's why we call it premenstrual syndrome, because these symptoms do occur right before your period. So it's not to say if those symptoms occur anytime that it's PMS, that this is describing the symptoms that occur right before your period begins. So I just wanted to be clear on that. Now, I do receive questions frequently about the role that hormones play in all of this, in PMS, because it's something that I've heard since I was a teenager, right? That we just blame everything on hormones. If you're in a bad mood or feeling kind of depressed that day, we tend to just blame everything on the hormones, and we get kind of annoyed at the hormones. And that's where hormones kind of get a bad rap. Now, hormones, of course, do play a part in this, because a big part of the reason that PMS symptoms start to come up is that estrogen and progesterone start to drop off in the days leading up to your period. And that in and of itself isn't necessarily an issue. It is common during that time, that late luteal phase. So the luteal phase, as a reminder, is that period of time between ovulation and when your period begins. It is normal during that time to start to see a little bit of a lowering in your mood and your energy levels. It's kind of a time where we want to go more inward, and that stuff is normal. That's part of a normal menstrual cycle. We talked about that in a recent episode, I think it was number 55, episode number 55, we were talking about the way that your hormones kind of fluctuate during your menstrual cycle and kind of the ups and downs in there. So if you want to hear more about that, you can check out episode 55. I have a few episodes I'm going to mention today that kind of relate to this one more so than usual. So I'm going to link to any episodes that I mention in the show notes. So as always, don't feel like you need to go scramble and find a way to write those down. I'm going to put links to these episodes in the show notes. So if you'd like to dig more into certain topics, you can have a next episode to go to. But yeah, so it's normal for estrogen and progesterone to start to lower during that time and to experience a little bit of a lower mood and feeling a little less energetic, I suppose, during that late luteal phase. But when it comes to PMS, it's not so much just that drop of estrogen and progesterone. It has more to do with the ratio between the two. So that's something that we talked about pretty in depth in episode 56 and 57. So episode 56, we were talking about estrogen and all the ins and outs and things you need to know. And then episode 57, we were talking about progesterone. And between the two, we were talking about the ratio between estrogen and progesterone and why that matters and what we need to do about it and all the things. So you can go back and listen to those episodes to kind of learn more about that. But guess what? That estrogen and progesterone ratio is absolutely going to impact PMS symptoms as well. So hormones definitely are something that matters. But here's the part that I really want to get across in this episode today. We all tend to want to just blame everything on the hormones, right? Again, everyone just wants to complain about hormone imbalance and blame it on the hormones and all the things. But I want to remind you, and this is something that I say frequently, but I'm just going to continue to say it here, that hormone imbalance is a symptom. Hormone imbalance itself is not the issue. Hormone imbalance is simply a symptom, and it's a sign that there's some deeper imbalance going on in your body. So, what can you actually do to support PMS? What is that deeper imbalance that's causing the hormone imbalance? Well, that's what we're going to take a look at today. Now, like many things, PMS and hormone imbalance, it's never as simple as there's just this one thing that you have to fix and all of your problems will be solved. I wish it were that easy. Honestly, it would make my job so easy if there were just one solution to every problem. But our bodies are complex. Everything in our bodies are interconnected. And so it's important to kind of come at things from all angles, right? When I work in a very holistic modality, and when I hear the word holistic, to me, that means looking at the whole body and how all those pieces do interact with each other. So, as is common on this podcast, it's not going to be one simple answer, but a multitude of things that we can look at. But I personally, I'm a glass half full kind of girl, and I take that as a positive because there's a lot of different things that you can do to approach it. Because if I give you one thing and you're saying, oh, well, I'm already doing that and I still have PMS, that can be a little frustrating. But if you have different angles that you can look at it from and have different actionable tips that you can take with you and different things that you can try, then there are more things to do. It's not like you're stuck with PMS forever. So, step one always is going to be diet. One thing that can absolutely impact hormone levels and hormone imbalance is just inflammation in your body. Inflammation impacts a lot of things in your body. I could definitely do a whole episode or probably multiple episodes just on inflammation, which I probably will do because it's a huge part of endometriosis. But so much of inflammation does come from diet. Now, we tend to hear the word diet, and I feel like just the word alone has kind of a negative connotation because we think of diet as being of dieting, right? Low fat and low carb and fasting and all the crazy different diets that people do. But when I say the word diet, what I really mean is just what are you eating? Whatever you eat, that is your diet. And I don't recommend doing anything super crazy with your diet. I just recommend eating real food, right? So there is, of course, subtlety and nuance and bio-individuality when it comes to diet, which I am very big on that. I don't believe that there is one perfect diet that is going to be the best thing for everybody or even everybody with endometriosis. There is nuance there that I think is important to be aware of. But what I do recommend, just kind of as a big picture approach for everybody, is focusing on whole foods, eating lots of veggies and quality protein, ditch the processed foods, the vegetable oils, the sugar, the alcohol, things that can really contribute to inflammation. Now, if you want to really know more about diet, episodes 1 and episode 34 are great episodes for that, where I really dug deep into all things diet, what you need to know, all the ins and outs of what to consider and what's really important to think about when it comes to diet. But if you are experiencing PMS and you haven't really done much work on your diet, or you're kind of unclear on what to eat, there's still some confusion there, I definitely recommend that as a starting point, because just diet alone can make a huge difference in so many symptoms, PMS included. I know, coming back to my journey, that was definitely something that I experienced. It was really years into my holistic journey here before I really started to dig deep into gut health and some of the other things that I'm going to talk about today. But I did start making dietary changes early on and started very quickly to notice a difference in many of my symptoms, including, symptoms surrounding my period and PMS and everything. So diet is a very powerful tool that we have on our hands. All right, step 2 is the lifestyle stuff. And this, I know the things I'm going to say, you're probably going to think, oh, well, Alyssa, this is just the basic stuff, right? Getting enough sleep, getting movement, doing some yoga, going on walks, stress management, things like deep breathing and meditation and journaling and any of the things that help you to manage your stress and feel calmer. Drinking enough water, right? Again, I know these are the basics, but my question to you is, Are you really doing that stuff? Are you actually getting enough sleep? Are you actually moving your body? Are you actually finding ways to manage your stress? Are those actually things that you're doing? Because if not, those are definitely things that you can look at, because all of that, again, yes, is going to impact your hormones and your symptoms that you're experiencing. I know we're kind of taught in our society that, we always are looking for the quick fix, like what's a supplement that I can take to support PMS, or what's a new drug that I can take to support these symptoms that I'm experiencing. We're kind of conditioned with that. But what I urge you to start to think differently about is diet and lifestyle first, and then looking at everything else, all the other options, right? Because if you're not working the diet and lifestyle stuff, you're really just slapping on a Band-Aid solution. And those Band-Aid solutions can be medical, they can be even supplements. I see people using supplements as a Band-Aid solution all the time. Now, I love me some supplements. I talk about supplements on the podcast. I use them in my own life. I use them in my practice. I recommend supplements to my clients. Love supplements, but remember that they are supplemental. They are not a be-all, end-all solution to anything. All right, so diet and lifestyle stuff, number one, when it comes to PMS. But I did want to talk today also about gut health, because gut health really has huge impact on your hormones in general, and I've really seen it to be a powerful tool, particularly when it comes to PMS type symptoms. So my first question to you is, are you pooping? Are you pooping on a daily basis? Is that something that you struggle with? Because constipation is a huge red flag for me when it comes to hormone imbalance. If I have somebody coming in as a one-on-one client I'm working with, and they're struggling with any sort of hormone-related symptoms, with I think just having endometriosis in and of itself, of course, we know there's a hormonal component to that, much less if you're experiencing PMS symptoms, you have really heavy periods going on, painful periods, you're having a lot of, the symptoms that we talked about today, the breast tenderness, the mood changes, all of those things. That's one of the first questions that I'm asking people is, are you pooping every day? Because if you're not, or you're, that you're experiencing constipation, what that tells me is that transit time of your food moving through your body is slow. And when your stool is moving slowly through your colon, the hormones that your liver had packaged up and gotten ready to eliminate can actually be recirculated into your system, and that can actually contribute to excess estrogen. So I think that that's important to know. I actually had a client, or current client, who I have been working with, and she actually came to me primarily with gut symptoms. That was really her big thing, that she was like, I need help with this. She'd already been to multiple doctors and just wasn't getting the support that she needed, but she was having constipation as well as gastritis and bloating and indigestion, just a kind of a variety of gut symptoms. And she did mention on our first call together, because I always start off, when I start working with clients, we do a really in-depth intake session where we spend 90 minutes together and we talk about all the things going on in your body, so I can really get a good picture and a good overview of what we're looking at. And she also had a lot of PMS symptoms going on at that time. It was kind of secondary for her because all the gut symptoms were really prevalent and affecting her day-to-day life. But she was talking about all the PMS symptoms that she was having, kind of those classic symptoms. And so we really were focused on the gut stuff. We went through a gut healing protocol, and I was helping her out with all of the gut-related things, which all of that has gotten so much better at this point in time. And of course, working on the diet and lifestyle stuff along the way, because that's a huge part of the work that I do as well. But the cool thing is that her PMS symptoms resolved along that way without really, quote unquote, directly addressing the hormones. So it shows you really the influence that your gut has over this stuff, because your gut affects so many things in your body. Hippocrates said thousands of years ago, said all disease begins in the gut. And, well, that is showing up to be true more and more and more. Because one thing that your gut affects is, like I mentioned before, the hormone detoxification piece of it, right? You actually can't detoxify hormones well if your body isn't eliminating well, if you're not pooping well, if you've got dysfunction happening in your gut. And we need that, right? Because we want hormones in our body, but hormones are going to use them and lose them kind of thing, right? We create hormones, we use them for their purpose, and then we want them out. We don't want the old hormones lingering around. We're constantly replacing them in our body. So I won't go through the whole hormone detoxification process today, because that would be like a whole science lesson in and of itself. We're not going to go deep into that today, but there's 3 phases of detoxification, and phase 3 is actually the elimination through your poop. So it's actually a whole phase in and of itself of hormone detoxification, just to kind of give you an idea of how important that part is. And the other thing that I want to mention, and this is something that's being studied more and more, is the idea of the gut-brain axis. There is a huge connection between your gut and your brain, and it goes both ways, right? Your brain absolutely affects your gut, and your gut also affects your brain. So especially, I mention this largely because there's a lot of mood-related symptoms when it comes to PMS. And, the mood swings, depression, anxiety, irritability, these different things that can come up. And we relate those to our hormones, but of course your brain is the part that controls the emotions and mood and all of the things. And so supporting your gut health can absolutely support the health of your brain as well. Now, as far as supporting your gut, of course, there's a lot of things that go into that. You can actually go back to episode 37, titled 10 Simple Ways to Support Your Gut Health. And that's a good place to start. I will link that one to the show notes as well, episode 37. But just to kind of break down some of the basics as you're listening to this episode here today, things like sitting down to eat, taking deep breaths before you begin your meal so you're actually eating in a calm, relaxed state is really important. Chewing your food thoroughly. All of these things help to send signals into your digestive tract about what's coming, and also just breaking down food well before it gets into your stomach. Chew that food thoroughly. Hydrate well. This is especially important if you're constipated, just drinking plenty of water, although you do want to be careful to avoid drinking too much water during your meals. So drink lots of water throughout your day, but less so when you're actively eating a meal, because it can dilute your stomach juices that actually break down your food, which is also important for keeping things moving. So those are some of the basics. But if you really want to dig deeper and learn how to support your gut health more, check out episode 37. Now, if you're going through all of this stuff and you're finding that the basics aren't moving the needle enough and you need more support, that is where I take a deep dive with my clients when I work with them one-on-one. I really like to use a stool test called the GI map, which is a functional test. And it really is a game changer in the gut healing process. So if you're doing all the things and you're just not seeing the needle move in various ways, whether with the gut symptoms or PMS, and you just need some deeper support, I highly recommend finding a practitioner who can do work like that, some of that gut healing work and looking at the gut from a functional perspective. So always good to take a look at that too. But truly, I come back to this, if you're not focusing in on diet, if you haven't been really clear on what is working well for your body and what's not, I highly recommend starting with that as a starting point. Starting as a starting point. That makes sense. You can see the show notes to download my free ultimate guide to building your own endometriosis diet, meaning it's individual to you and your unique needs. And this alone can have huge impact on your gut because the food that you eat feeds your microbiome, which are the bacteria and other creatures that live inside your gut. And what you eat can determine whether you're feeding the good guys or the bad guys, which is a whole conversation in and of itself. But start with the diet, head into the show notes, download that free guide, get started with that. And thanks so much for being here today. Much love. Thank you so much for joining me today, my friend. If you loved what you heard, be sure to share with a friend and subscribe so that you can keep coming back for more. If you are ready to take the next step towards getting to the root cause of your endo symptoms like endobelly, pain, fatigue, and so much more, you need to download my free ultimate guide to building your own endometriosis diet. You can find the link in the show notes or at www.endobellygirl.com. Until next time, my friend.